Welcome to RetroLogic. I'm Sam Wagers, here as always with John Cummins. No guest this week, just us. Coming off of, we recorded, keep an eye out on your feeds. We recorded the Game of the Year 30 episode with the whole gang, just about. Mike couldn't make it, but almost the whole gang. And it was a doozy of a podcast. But in the meantime, while that's still being edited, we're going to record this podcast. I don't know which one we'll post first. But anyway, John, how are you?
I'm doing good. I think Mike did make it. I think we didn't get Solo.
That's right. Mike did make it. That's right. We didn't get Solo. Mike was there.
Just
Mike was totally there. He was pulling for Clay Fighter.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't want Mike to think that we didn't notice that he was there while he was there.
My head's not in the right place. He was definitely there. I was there, right? Yeah, maybe I wasn't there.
Maybe it was all the
Maybe that was the fourth strongest mole. He snuck in, took my place. Yeah, RetroLogic is not just a podcast. It's not just multiple podcasts, although it is. It is a whole community of retro gamers, including our active, friendly, and free Discord, giveaways, contests, and of course the whole retro podcast family, RetroGroove, Filmlogic, On Topic Retro, and you can find all of that stuff at our website, retrologic.games. Speaking of which, housekeeping around the corner. Filmlogic just posted a new episode just the other day. The Film Awards. So they're basically doing the Game of the Year 30 stuff as well, and RetroGroove has also posted an episode on City Pop, Season 3, Episode 7, City Pop, Japanese Joyful Vibes. What's going on with On Topic Retro, John?
So we just concluded the Retro Rewind for, what's it called? Enemy Below. What's the, Blaster Master.
Blaster Master.
Yes. The game that I think only one person played, and that would be Micah, who won the contest in Discord.
I meant to play it, but I have so many games.
I'm just as guilty as everyone else.
I love Blaster Master, and I have the game. It's one of the 3DS eShop titles I downloaded when the store went under. So.
I mean, it's on the NSO.
There's a lot of those backlogged for me. Yeah.
So, with that being said, since I didn't even get to play a whole lot of it, I made the executive decision that we will not be doing an episode on it because I didn't want to try to talk about a game that I had almost no experience. And I didn't really think it'd be fair to ask Micah to come on and do an almost solo episode on that game. So we're just going to acknowledge that Mike is the man and that he's the only one that completed it. And we're going to move on to Zelda, the Ocarina of Time, the next Zelda game in the Becoming the Hero series. And then the community also voted for F-Zero X to be the next Retro Rewind game. Hopefully more people are playing that.
I might have to get on that. F-Zero X is a pretty great game. It's the one that made me a real believer in F-Zero. The Super Nintendo game couldn't do that. Now, 99 might have, if I hadn't played F-Zero X already by the time that came out.
Well, and if 99 would have been the format that the original F-Zero had been, like, it would have been mind-blowing. Like, I would have played way more of that. But anyway, to get back to the contest is a very simple one in theory. I was trying to find something that you could just hop in and do and not have to put maybe necessarily as much time into. I know that this is the holiday season. Lots of people have things going on. So this month it's just the death race, fastest time. I believe it's 29 cars you have to try to destroy under, it's not even under, but whoever does it the fastest wins the contest. So you can submit your times on Discord or you can email them to the show at ontopicretro@gmail.com.
All right. And of course, I'm still plugging away at the Battle Network streams over on YouTube. Third Strongest Mole on YouTube. You can watch me suffer through Battle Network 4 for an entire new go at the game. I'm about to wrap up Game 2, Game 3 is mandatory to get all the game's content. So, I'll be kind of happy to put Battle Network 4 behind me. Battle Network 5 might be my favorite, actually. So I am looking forward to that.
Nice. I didn't have it in the notes here, but just want to put out a reminder there that the Christmas giveaway stuff will be coming up soon. I'll be posting what I have on the Discord, and I'll try to get with the other shows to see what they're doing, and just kind of keep an eye out because that should be coming up.
Yep, lots going on the Discord. We've kept the A to Z going. We did Nintendo A to Z. Now it's Sega A to Z, or maybe JRPGs.
I think right now they're blending and
a little crossover
streams.
Yeah, they're merging. Most of my RPG picks are Atlas picks, so technically those are Sega games too. But yeah, I try to get one for each just because I have a lot of fun with it. And good segue, because today's letter inspired my Price is Retro list, actually.
Nice.
So, yeah, we'll go right into the Price is Retro. If this is your first time playing, here's how we play. I am going to list off 4 or 5 games, and everyone guesses on how much the lot is worth in total. Whoever guesses closest to the actual value wins the round. And of course, this is one-on-one. This is a Price is Retro duel, so whichever one of us gets closer is going to be the winner.
No robot.
I will, since I already teased it, I will go ahead and present my list first. We were talking about Sega A to Z. Today's letter was K, and I shouted out Kenseiden, since Knights of the Nightmare was already mentioned.
Yes, it was.
And I noted that it is both my second favorite and least favorite Master System game because I only own 2. So I decided to make a list of Master System games. In order to maybe get the juices flowing as to what else I'm missing on that system. So here they are. They are all complete in box, all for the Sega Master System. First off, I have Baku Baku. Master System, complete in box, of course. Followed by R-Type for the Master System, complete in box. Ys the Vanished Omens for the Master System, complete in box. And Golvelius, Valley of Doom for the Master System, complete in box.
I think I'm going to go with 215.
215. All right. The total is $323.98. So the breakdown, Baku Baku, the most expensive on the list at $144.93. R-Type is $43.24. Ys the Vanished Omens is $87.82. And Golvelius, $47.99. Master System games don't tend to be super expensive, but some of these are up there. What was the total again? $323.98.
Alrighty. See, I was $108 off. Almost $109.
108. We'll see how I do.
These games on my list are all N64 games, and they are all loose.
Oh, loose. You're talking my language.
Loose N64 games. This is the way that most people collect them. Sane people. First game on the list is Body Harvest. Second game on the list is Hybrid Heaven. The third game on the list is Worms Armageddon. And the last game is the Mystical Ninja starring Gomon.
Ooh, okay. I'm going to go with 295.
$290.
Gosh, I know Mystical Ninja's expensive. The question is loose. How much does that go down?
So $295. The total of my list is $310.92.
Okay.
You
close.
took it.
The ghost guess returns, man. You just got to guess 300.
Yeah, that does work in this case.
It does. Unless you pick outlier games, a lot of 3 to 5 tends to go towards a value of around 300.
You were $15.92 off. So you beat me by about 85. Well, $95.
Are we tied again? Or are you still up 1? I know
we're
you
tied
were
again
up.
now.
We're tied again. Oh, we can't end the year tied.
No, we'll have to.
We have to do something else before the holiday break, or
maybe we'll do a Price's Retro shootout. Like we'll do just a Price's Retro episode.
Man. For all the Christmas cookies.
That's right.
Well, we don't have any guest lists or other games, so do we have a trivia card? I guess it's just me on the trivia.
Yeah.
Embarrass myself on my lack of knowledge about mainstream Xbox games.
Let me grab these cards and see. Okay, here we go. See, I know you'll get at least half of this one. I don't know that we've done it yet, so let's go for it. So, Nintendo's favorite Mario first appeared as the playable character in which arcade game?
Nintendo's favorite Mario?
Well, I think it's...
There are other Marios that Nintendo does not favor?
It says hold on. It says Nintendo favorite Mario.
Okay.
I think I added S.
Donkey Kong? Now, this one can be a trick question, though. Because some cards are going to say Donkey Kong, and then there's going to be the other ones that are going to be like, that's Jumpman, not Mario. And I don't know where they saw. I'm just going to say Donkey Kong. Okay.
I think even Nintendo has said that Jumpman is Mario. So I have disputed this exact question before. So on a trivia card, that claimed that was not Donkey Kong. So what do they say, that Mario Bros?
I guess, yeah. That'd have to be it.
That's what I would think. Question 2. John Marston is one of the leading characters in which popular video game series?
Red Dead Redemption.
That's it. You got them both.
Hey, I knew a game that I haven't played.
I haven't played that one either.
I actually think I bought that game for my brother at one point when he had an Xbox. I was like, I heard good things about this. You would probably.
I have it a couple ways, and I'm going to give away a copy of it on 360 in the Christmas giveaways.
There you go. Look out for those giveaways. There's going to be all kinds of good stuff coming. All right. Well, that is this week's game show portion. We will move into our show topic for the week, which is the N64. Specifically, how in the world do I play N64 games today on a modern TV? Some new options with Analog's 3D console that they've announced. Has not released yet, but they don't even have pre-orders open.
No.
They have not sold out their pre-orders yet either. Thankfully. Who knows how fast they will. But we'll start with that. So Analog has announced it's called the Analog 3D.
Yes.
Right?
Which is kind of a different approach to like what they usually do, but I like it. It looks like it's going to be more 64 focused than, usually their consoles are
entirely
less,
as far as I can tell. Well, so Analog's first system, I believe, was the NT, not the Super NT, and that was an NES.
Yes.
And it was very pricey. It was very much just a premium collector's item.
Yeah, it was aluminum
I think
construction.
they did a run of it that was like entirely gold plated or something, and it was like $900. But
well, originally they were 500, and it and it was an aluminum construction, played Famicom and NES.
Aluminum. That's right. That's right. Yeah. So and that was Famicom and NES, but I mean that's just kind of region free. The Super NT is much the same way. Now the Genesis model, the Mega SG, comes with some adapters. But ultimately that is for, I think it's the SG-1000 and the Master System. That's actually the reason. It's the reason I own 2 whole Master System games, because I can play them on that. I don't have a Master System. I don't have a Genesis either. But I do have an analog Mega SG and Super NT and a Pocket. So obviously I'm familiar with their products. So the 3D seems to be that for N64. It is interesting because the name 3D makes me think it might be more broad than that. But from everything they've shown in their marketing, this is for N64.
Yeah, I think the 3D is...
They call it a reimagining of the N64.
I think the 3D is in reference to the N64 kind of being Nintendo's foray into 3D.
Yeah, it's the first system. Well, technically, there's Super Nintendo. You can play Star Fox on
but
a Super NT. You can play Stunt Racer FX. But yeah, it is their first console that's really going to do a lot of what we would consider.
Well, and have analog control for 3D games, like with an analog stick,
right?
Which is kind of funny.
Right.
This is also an analog system. They're getting it all in there.
Analog, the company.
Yep.
Yeah, it does, I don't know. It does sound like it'd be more general to me. Like, it'd be great if this could do... because that's actually one of the things... Like I said, I was never going to pick up a Master System. But to have that sort of through point as an entryway of, well, now that you have this system... and it came with the adapter even. Why not, pick up some Master System games? It has me getting curious. It has me looking at price charting, seeing that they're not that expensive. I like both the Master System games I own. I can joke. Kensei-Den is my least favorite Master System game, but I actually think it's a pretty good game. The other one I own is Penguin Land, by the way. That's my favorite. I love Penguin Land.
I've passed on awesome. Penguin Land for the Master System.
Oh, man, you're missing out. It's actually a whole series, and this one is the sequel to the original SG-1000 Penguin Land, and it takes place in space. So, that's fun. The whole Japanese title is actually hilarious for it. It's like... yeah, Doki Doki Penguin Land, a spacefaring adventure or something like that. It's Penguin Land. How did we get on the topic of Penguin Land? We're talking about the analog 3D. But yeah, that sort of entry point. I actually would have been thrilled if this could play like Saturn games. Or and obviously I think because they're not putting a disk drive on this, at least from what I can tell, it's going to be N64 because it's not going to have a disk drive. And everything else pretty much was disks.
Unless this could play the N64 disk drive games. Because this is
true. Well,
it's first and only aftermarket solution supporting 100% compatibility in every region.
Yeah. It most likely can. Now, you're going to have to get a disk drive. I don't think they're making a disk drive for it. But just like the Mega SG works with a Sega CD, the same will probably be the case here. Their stuff typically does aim for 100% compatibility with everything. I couldn't explain to you all the technical reasons of why FPGA makes that work, but yeah. That's been proven the case for everything. Even stuff on the Pocket, you can play Boktai on your analog Pocket, right? But all that is really, that's all in the cartridge. So that's actually not, because it isn't emulation, technically it is emulation. It depends what definition of the word emulation you use.
Yeah, they like to say it's not.
Because it is not, they like to say it's not. I have a lot of opinions on the definition of the word emulation. But as a very basic definition, emulation is using newer hardware to replicate older hardware. This is what it's doing. But it is doing it in a different manner than a computer program that is loading a ROM.
Correct.
And so that is the difference that they're trying to point out.
Yeah, this hardware is designated to play original hardware. It's not
and it is running the cartridge in real
Correct.
time. It is not simply
pulling the ROM,
loading a ROM
Yep.
from your cartridge,
which is nice. I mean, I can't stress enough just the quality of product that Analog puts out. Like every time I buy one, I'm very satisfied. Everything feels nice. There's nothing cheap about it, and I never have any issues.
Yeah, and for what you are getting, I think it's actually a very appealing price. Yeah. They're a bit higher end, but this is why I passed on the NT. That thing was $500 for an NES. Like,
yeah, and I think that they kind of learned from that there is a market in between the market they were looking for with the NT and people that want to buy a Retron. There's a collector market that's in between that will pay, twice as much for a product than the Retron cost to get better quality and not have to worry about, the system breaking down, because there's a lot of issues with Retrons and just all kinds of other emulation devices where they just don't last very long through several playthroughs. The quality's just not there.
Well, and the thing too, you can really weigh this, and it becomes appealing, weighed even against buying an original console. And it's going to cost more than an original. I don't think they've confirmed price on the 3D, but the Super NT was the first of their products I bought. And at the time, I was seriously considering just finding a Super NES for myself, because I continued to collect SNES games to the point where I had quite a few of them. I had access, I've mentioned this before, but I sort of have access to the games I grew up with. To this day, my brothers and I still kind of share them, although it's really more my nephew and I that share them at this point in time. But they're at my parents' house. Like I can take a game with me when I visit, right? And I can return a game. It's sort of like a library, a private library, but just for family. So I was really thinking, like, I didn't want to take the console, right? Because my nephew loves to play those games when he's there. So I didn't want to take the console, but I wanted something to play these games on, and I figured I could even take games out of the library, so to speak, and then return them and take different games out. And so that's why I was looking at buying a system. Because I think this is like, you have to say, what's the use case for something like this? If you own all these games, don't you already have a system? Well, in this case, no, not exactly.
You're very
and if you don't have any games,
outlier.
Then you're talking about buying a whole collection, right? So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, John. Like, who buys this?
To me, there's also kind of like the benefit of being able to play this on your modern television. So, even if you go out and you buy a Super Nintendo or an N64 in this case, and you try to hook it up, even using component cables, you're still going to get a very poor image on a modern, television, on an LCD screen, or if you're not using a CRT television, it's going to look pretty bad. So one good thing about these is they're usually higher resolution output. I believe even the Super NT is HD. So You're going to get a lot clearer image.
Yeah.
And it's going to look. It's going to
now the 3D is confirmed to be
yes,
4K.
But I believe this is the first time that it's going to be 4K. I believe the Super NT and the Mega SG were all like, I believe at least 1080, or maybe they were like, what is it, 2180, or what's the other?
I think it's just 1080. I have a monitor that's 2K. I'm looking at it right now.
I guess I could look. 1080 is what they say.
Yeah, I was pretty sure. I mean, that was more still the real standard when those products were launched. So that's not surprising. And again, you're upscaling something that was made for like 480p at most.
Exactly.
So.
And it's funny because I believe that the Pocket has an even better resolution than that. That's because it's on a tiny screen. It has a capability of 16 by 1440, 1600 by 1440, which is insane. That screen is amazing.
It is a beautiful screen, actually. And I'm surprised how good Game Boy games look on it. Because sometimes,
well, they kept the right aspect
ratio,
so that's a big factor.
Yeah. Completely for it.
But anyway, back to the 3D. Offering 4K, we're kind of at the point now where lots of TVs are standard with 4K or some kind of upscaling to 4K. That's how they come most of the time. I mean, even I think the latest TV that I bought, just a cheaper TV to put in the living room, was already 4K, which is it's like the base model nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense to make that jump. But I mean, these are also still look good on a CRT TV. Like you could still use those. You kind of have options whenever you buy something like this.
And they do sell their digital analog converter.
Yeah.
Which is not a cheap peripheral, but if you're all in on this stuff, you can use that with these systems and a CRT to really aim to recreate that experience.
They have,
because even if you buy an original console, you're probably not getting a new one, right? It's probably going to be used. And there's some risks that come with that, right? That it's just not in working condition, even if your seller claims it is. Or there's going to be wear. You're not going to have everything you might want.
The other thing to mention too is all these consoles will play on modern TVs, but they also have different display modes you can select. If you want it to have like scan lines or slight distortion like a CRT would have, you can change different filters and kind of provide some of those things.
And one of the other things that has really been useful to me that listeners of the show may be aware of, as I've mentioned before, is through the use of custom firmware, you can actually use, technically it's not, at least to my knowledge, it's not supported on the Genesis system. But the Super NT has custom firmware available for it that can be used to actually back up ROMs of your cartridges. And of course, you can also load them from an SD card and play them. Obviously, some people are going to use that to play ROMs they've obtained through means other than using the system to back them up. But one thing I will note that's really great about that is the ability, because this is region free, to use that to obtain through what I think is the most legal method to obtain. If there is a legal method to obtain a ROM file of your game that you own, it's this. But I mean, there are some lawyers that would argue that all ROMs are illegal. That hasn't been proven in a court of law. But if you buy, say, a Japanese copy of a game, say Marvelous Another Treasure Island, which I've mentioned recently, you can load this firmware into your Super NT, put it in the system, back up the ROM, patch the ROM with an English translation, because there's a lot of great fan translations out there. It's kind of a golden age of fan translations. And then load that ROM back up, play it on your Super NT, have very high performance on your HD TV, and play the game, which is awesome. So I've played a number of Japanese-only Super Nintendo games that way, as well as I plan to do it with some Game Boy games as well. I don't think there's a easy way to back up files on the Pocket that I found, and I do have custom firmware to play them, which is great because that actually allows you to take.
I wonder if you can, if you have the dock.
I have the dock too. I think it's mostly a, because I mean the thing is, doing a cartridge reading, the main reason it doesn't come loaded stock is because they might be held legally liable for people doing illegal things with it. But as far as I know, that firmware, at least what I got for the Super NT, was literally created by the guy who did the coding for the cores on the Super NT. He just listed it separately, independently. And it literally came out the same day as the firmware update to the main system.
The Game Boy operator allows you to
it's very trustworthy. Yeah, so that's actually how I've done them with the Game Boy operator. All that saying, for the 3D, I would expect that to be the case, that this works too, and especially if the disk drive works. You know, if you want to play Animal Forest, if you want to play Doshin the Giant on the disk drive, if you want to play Mario Artist, there's some very interesting games out there that exist on that.
I would love to have a disk drive for the N64. Just haven't had a good opportunity to snag one. They're very pricey.
Of course, all of that is going to be, an additional purchase, right? And so that's the thing, too. Now, the N64 is not, if you go loose, is not a super expensive system to collect for. It's not a giant library. I mean, it's sort of the appeal. Some people do complete sets of N64. It's a pretty big library, though.
It's 300-something games, I think.
So the other approach is you buy this, and this is your gateway to the N64. Now, that's still going to be quite a bit of money down because you're going to have no games. But you can find some great games for very cheap on the N64. Just not Gomon, sadly.
Yeah, $84. I don't think I did my breakdown on the games I listed.
Oh, okay. That actually wasn't as high as I think it was like
84.
The others were higher then.
Yeah, I think the big
84
the big runner on that one
it's not that bad.
Worms Armageddon.
Okay.
$195 for that guy.
Yeah, okay. Well, I was lucky because I actually thought Gomon was the highest on that list. I just had them like reversed.
So this is things coming out next year. Is this something that you're planning on picking up?
I honestly don't know. The N64 has not been as relevant to me. There are games that I would like to get if I had infinite time. Money isn't too much of an issue because most of the games I want wouldn't be that expensive. Like, I've never played Blast Corps. I know that's heresy, but I have never played Blast Corps. But the other thing is, while I have N64 games, I have another way to play them. And that's the other part of our topic, which is the NSO on the Switch, which we've talked about generally, but just related to this, we're rapidly approaching the point where every N64 game I would want to play is on there. Now, that's not the case yet. Like I said, Blast Corps is not on there. Mischief Makers is not on there. That's the big exclusion, and I don't think it'll come, probably.
Yeah.
Because Enix is not playing ball. with this app. Treasure has, but Enix was the publisher, so I don't know who gets to make that call. I don't really know how those calls are made, to be honest. We're not privy to that.
It would be fun to be a fly on the wall for those conversations.
Yeah. But just the NSO in general, what are your thoughts on it? I know my thoughts.
Well, and this is where we are getting quite a few more games here recently. It seems like they've been putting some more stuff on there, but it felt a little bit underwhelming when they first released the app compared to what we were seeing for the NES and the Super Nintendo, and whenever they added N64 and the Sega Genesis, I was kind of like, I think there may have been like 8 games when they originally announced. I don't know how many we have now, but it's definitely nowhere near like the 80 games that we have for the NES, you know.
It's about 30, I think.
Okay.
Now.
See, it's a lot more than I was thinking. But the good thing about the N64 is there is a good chance that what you're playing on there is going to be something you want to play or something you knew about. It's not like the NES where we get these random nuggets of, you know, is it good or is
there is win back, right? There is win back.
Yeah.
I like the random nuggets, though.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is part of my crusade for NSO. Why I like it so much is because of the Vice Project Dooms, the Eliminator Boat Duels, the games that get dropped there that everybody else is like, this isn't Chrono Trigger. This sucks. I wanted Chrono Trigger. I'm like, dude, you didn't play it. It's actually really good. I know it's not Chrono Trigger. I'm not claiming Eliminator Boat Duel is as good as Chrono Trigger. But, like, play Eliminator Boat Duel. It's fun.
It is really good.
Like, and I mean, I play retro games in part because that sense of discovery is really invigorating for me. And so I want people to know Eliminator Boat Duel is good. Vice Project Doom is good. Even stuff like Jelly Boy is at least kind of good. Now, there's some duds on there. The N64, I'll be honest, I haven't actually even played Winback. I haven't touched it. I've heard people say it's not great.
It's not, but I mean, it's okay.
That's like the only one on the N64. I'm looking at the list right now. The rest are all definitely games you could have fun with. I'm not going to say every game's for everyone. They're not.
Have they updated the full list? Yep, there it is. See,
yep.
I was very excited this last go around. They added Harvest Moon 64, which is one of my favorite N64 games. I don't know how much time I'll actually put into it on the Switch because it's a very time-consuming game. But also, what's the other one? 1080 is a very good snowboarding game.
Yep. And it is great that we got Sin and Punishment, and that came pretty early.
Yeah. As a Japanese only.
One of the most imported N64 games, I believe. But it's great to get stuff like that, too, through this app. It shows they know that they can play to an audience that's not just looking for what's super familiar all the time. I mean, I think the advantages of the NSO app are you get all of this with saves, with the save functionality, as well as online multiplayer. Now, I have not tried online multiplayer on the N64
I haven't
app.
Either.
4 players, I imagine, will not go smoothly, just based on 2-player experiences I've had on the other apps.
Yeah, that's kind of the worst part with Nintendo's online infrastructure is that you're getting the mediocre online experience with multiple players. Like even just trying to play the NES games with 2 players it can be rough.
Well, look, and I get the complaints I also feel like I understand this well enough to know that just throw more dollars at it isn't necessarily a solution.
No, they'd have to fully change
You know,
their online infrastructure.
you would have to actually like touch these games to program them. Like you're not going to just. It's not like you can just insert rollback netcode into Super Smash Bros. For the N64 and call it a day. Like that requires actually modifying the game, which was never how this was presented. This is, at the end of the day, an emulator, and the kind of emulator that Analog says they are not.
Exactly. This is in fact, I believe that this has been publicly released, that these are emulators that Nintendo didn't even make themselves, that they've grabbed from other sources. But at the same time, the save states and all those things, and being able to play it legitimately on your Switch console, which, you know, I don't think we need to talk a whole lot about the Switch, but we already know that, you know, you can play these games in handheld mode now, which is like a big deal, especially for some of these more lengthy games.
I will note that with the use of some of that custom firmware I mentioned, the Analog Pocket can play Super Nintendo games, Sega Genesis games. It can't play N64. There's no core for that I know of, but so that does compare. Not the Analog 3D, mind you, but that does give you a handheld Super Nintendo experience, potentially.
Like if you're trying to play the original version of Ocarina of Time, now you can play it on handheld with save states and, you know, take your time with it, and you're not glued to a TV like you would have been 30 years ago or 25 years ago.
Right. Now, the other big disadvantage, of course, is you don't really own these games.
You're renting them.
And there's collectors know the issues associated with that.
This is Nintendo Blockbuster.
I don't necessarily... Well, I don't know how I feel about this. I'm not against digital games. I'm a lot more forgiving of that. I think a lot of people love to panic when an eShop closes. And sometimes they talk as if Nintendo is going to like break into your house and delete games off your 3DS because the eShop's closing. Like, that's not what's happening. Like, people are like, I'm losing my games. Like, you can't re-download them. But it's only a little bit worse from losing your physical cartridge. I mean, yes, your physical cartridge you could replace, but you replace it through the secondhand market. Like, you can't. I can't walk into a Best Buy and buy a brand new copy of A Link to the Past right now. Now, I can find one on eBay. I can find one at a retro game store, but that's what's lost. And I think part of, you know, stuff is going to get remade. Now, a lot of stuff falls through the cracks, and you know how I feel about remakes too. With NSO, though, this is explicitly a rental. And we don't know what happens when the Switch becomes obsolete. We just don't know. Nintendo doesn't owe us anything, right? They could say, we're starting over from scratch. I'd be surprised if Nintendo does nothing with their legacy games. Like, Switch 2, whatever you call it, launches tomorrow. They maybe mum on it for a year or two, but like eventually you're going to play Super Mario Bros. On that thing, right? Now, are they going to go back to the Virtual Console and you're going to have to pay $5 again?
They won't.
To download it? Are they going to launch something like NSO because they already have it and your account will carry over? But will we go back to the 20 games on the, I think it was 20 or whatever games on the NES we started with at the launch of NSO for the Switch? And that's what the Switch 2's NES app is going to launch with. I don't know. It depends, right? And I think that technical considerations have to come in there as to whether or not they actually want to improve the emulator. And if they want to actually modify games so that they run better on the emulator, then they are going to drip feed that out. Now, they could just drip feed it out because as a subscription model, They want people to have a reason to renew every year or every month, as the case may be. It may just be about getting money out of customers.
I don't think we're...
But, I mean, there's any number of ways it could play out, right? We just don't know.
I don't think we're going to ever have the virtual console model ever again. And I think the reason why I'm saying that is because we continue to get more things added to NSO, new apps, all these new things. That tells me that Nintendo's making more money on subscription service style payments than they did from people paying $5, $8 or $10 for a retro game at a time.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Everybody loves to talk about how much they love the virtual console, but like at the end of the day, how many games did you buy for the virtual console? How much money did you spend? I know there's somebody out there who's going to be like, I spent $2,000 because I downloaded everything before it closed. Yeah. But the majority of people, I think, were happy to have those games there. But I think they're just like, I like knowing that that's there.
I bet the average...
It's the same response
if you look at
It's the same response they have to the NSO. They complain when Eliminator Boat Duel comes. They don't play it. They celebrate when a big-name game like GoldenEye comes, but they still don't play it. How many of you actually played GoldenEye when it came to the service?
That's what I'm saying. I think if there was a way to track this, which I'm sure there is somewhere, Nintendo knew about it, but the attachment rate of any virtual console game to the Wii's total number of sales was probably less than 5%. You just pick one. Yeah. I bet it was less than 5%.
Except for maybe
Super Mario.
The most basic games that we know will be on every iteration of an NSO app, like Super Mario Bros.
Yeah,
Legend of Zelda.
mean, even those games, I bet, would struggle to have a huge attachment rate, just because a lot of people that own the Wii did not care about those games. Like they were playing Wii Sports, things like that. How many Wiis were bought by, grandparents?
Oh yeah, we had huge.
Yeah. So when you look at that as a business model and then compare it to, hey, there's so many Switch owners out there and we're getting monthly payments from them. We don't care if they play the games or not. We're getting monthly payments. We'll add stuff to it occasionally to get more people on board, but it's guaranteed income. They don't know how many people are going to buy them.
You can say you love the virtual console model more, but your money says otherwise to
exactly.
Nintendo. Now, it's not entirely a fair comparison, because this is also tied to general online functionality. There's a lot of people who subscribe who just want to play Splatoon. They just want to play Splatoon online. Because if you're not playing online, why do you even have Splatoon?
Exactly, but I would be curious on the expansion pass numbers. Because that would be a more true...
And worth noting, the N64 is restricted.
Exactly.
The N64 and the
so I'm saying I'd be curious to see, because that would be a more fair comparison to Virtual Console, because you would strictly be buying the Family Pass, or not the Family Pass, the expansion pass to get these games.
A little bit. You get some of the
some expansions
other perks, DLC.
Yeah, DLCs for other games.
They haven't done one in a while, but Mario Kart alone is probably worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately not, now that they're not adding to it, but I think just the Mario Kart deal, Mario Kart, and if you play Mario Kart and Animal Crossing, which statistically, if you own a Switch, you do.
Just wait. Whenever they re-release Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Plus, it's just a re-release of the game, but it has all the DLC included. It's going to sell even more.
Mario Kart 8 2.
Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Plus. They'll put 2 pluses on there.
Yeah.
It's coming. It is. They're going to sell a box copy that has everything in it. And it's going to go crazy.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I really like this model. I know that it has its detractors, but I think part of it is, one, I'm game for anything. Like, if they add an obscure game, I'm not going to complain. I'm going to play it first. I'll complain if I play it and it's not good, but at the end of the day, the number of games for my dollar is higher under this model, even than the Virtual Console. And those prices were I think, very generous compared to what we see for remakes. This is why I hate remakes, because I actually just want the game as is. And I know the emulation doesn't recreate it perfectly, but I find for my standards, at least, you can say I have low standards. That's fine. The NSO app is perfectly playable versions of these games.
Yeah.
I know they're not the best, but they're perfectly playable. And that's what I care about. I care about getting the ability to play these games at a low cost. And it's doing that job. And it's even encouraging me to try that other stuff, like the Eliminator boat duels, and finding some new favorites.
Yeah.
And I think that's great.
I had some reservations with this model over the Virtual Console at first, because we've seen Nintendo drip feed content before. Anybody that owned a Wii U knows what I'm talking about. And I was kind of not necessarily worried, but kind of curious at how fast we would be getting things added to it. And I will say that Nintendo has done a way better job at adding things to the service than I expected.
It's faster than I can keep up. It's just faster than I can keep up. I mean, I talked about I don't have time to play Enemy Below. I don't. All that's definitely true. Like even the Zelda games, I want to get to Minish Cap at some point.
I remember people complaining about
that's on the
volume. You know, at first we were like tracking the NES games that were being released. They're like, well, we only got one this time. We got 4 last time, and you know.
Well, look, and I can at least understand if you're that guy where's Chrono Trigger. You know, I get it. Like you have one game you're counting on, and it's not showing up. I mean, for a lot of people, that might have even been Earthbound. Now, I had another way to play Earthbound, so it didn't affect me. But Earthbound was absent from the Super Nintendo app for a good long time.
Yep.
And people were saying, "Where's Earthbound? Why are you releasing Jelly Boy? Why are you where's Earthbound?" Just like don't get hung up on that. Like it's just like as life advice. Like play the cards you're dealt.
I think most people that need to play Chrono Trigger probably already have a way to play it.
Well, and that's the other thing too is. It's not realistic to expect Chrono Trigger because you'll notice trends from right now that there are certain companies that would rather re-release their games through other means than... And we don't know what kind of deals are struck because this isn't just Nintendo exclusive. But even more so with the N64, there is the benefit of the games most people want are going to be the Nintendo first-party games.
Yep.
Just Nintendo's own IP is going to kind of create a really good baseline. You get your Marios and your Zeldas. You get your Metroids. You get your Pokemon.
Except on 64, there's no Metroid.
Yeah. Well, there is no Metroid game to be there, so...
No, I was going to I was thinking about something else. With Virtual Console, I did not buy near as many games. I would always I would buy the oddball stuff there too, like things I knew I wasn't going to be able to play anywhere else. But with the NSO, I don't have to pick and choose anymore. I can just play what I want to. So I do I ended up enjoying this a lot more than I thought I would.
Yeah. So really, I think if you go back to that other use case, if you're somebody who just, maybe you were born in the 2000s and you just never had an N64, but you're curious, right? Awesome. Great for you. I would say you probably already have a Switch if you're into video games and Nintendo specifically. I would say try out the app. The analog 3D is probably more for those people who already have a substantial collection. But if there are games aren't on NSO and aren't likely to be added, and you just don't even have a way to play N64 games, and you really want those games, then I mean that's an option that exists for you, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to somewhat think about they didn't give us a price range for the analog 3D, but I would have to say it's going to be less than $300.
Yeah, the Super NT is what, 200? 200?
Yeah, I think they ended up
A
being
little over 200?
I think they were
Just a little
$199.
over 200.
But
199. That sounds right.
and the Pocket was $199 at first. It got a price hike shortly after the first wave shipped. But I could see this being in that $199, maybe $250 range.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it is a more demanding system than the Super Nintendo or the Game Boy, but at the same time, I don't think that matters with today's technology.
No. It's not going to notice.
I think they've found that pocket they're at. If it's higher, it will be slightly higher, and that's probably has more to do with inflation and even just making sure they can meet demand than anything else. I don't think sellouts will be as big a problem. I think the pocket was lightning in a bottle for them. I just don't think as many people are going to be.
Well, no,
because the pocket was so versatile. Yeah. The handheld aspect drew a lot of people in. It could play a ton of games because you were getting Game Boy through GBA just out of the box. Before you add the firmware that can play just about anything like 32-bit and below. But this is, as far as we know right now, just for N64. N64 fans are pretty diehard, but most people moved on. Of course, that may mean they don't run the same kind of numbers they did for the Pocket. So they could still sell.
Well, I would say maybe a fair comparison would be the Analog Duo, which is on sale for $249, so $250. But it's a disc system, so maybe there's a little bit more cost associated to manufacturing it. But I would say that it's not going to be, the 3D will not be more expensive than $249. I would think that that's probably their cap. But the Analog Duo is also still available for pre-order right now as we speak. So, So maybe.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I think the main case for this is people who already have collections, and how many people are sitting on large TurboGrafx collections
exactly.
Right now?
But I mean,
probably fewer than N64.
Oh, definitely. I think N64 will have a larger market, but I don't think it will have anywhere near the market that the NES or the Super NES had, or even the Pocket. Yeah. I mean, the Pocket could play 3 generations of Game Boy systems. So,
and then you add in the adapters.
Yeah.
Too.
Which they're up for pre-order again.
I might have to.
Seems like, dang it, now I'm gonna have to buy some of these.
Yeah, another Christmas gift for myself. Oh yeah,
for next year.
What are those? So that's for PC Engine TurboGrafx.
For what?
Neo Geo Pocket.
Oh yeah,
and Lynx for the Pocket.
Yep,
the adapter set.
You need it.
The thing is, I don't have any games of those.
Yeah, but that just means you could start
collecting for those.
Them.
Can be. That's true.
Especially Neo Geo Pocket.
I still only have 2 Master System games, and that adapter came with the Mega SG.
I mean, you could buy some Neo Geo Pocket Color cartridges.
I could. I could also just get the collection on Switch.
There's 2 collections now.
I know. There's a volume 2.
I have them both, and I have the cartridges. I'd have them.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. They're these little bitty guys.
I really did want to try that the Neo Geo Pocket version of Mega Man: The Power Battle.
Oh yeah, I don't have that one.
That's on one of them.
I have the.
That's on one of the collections, or no? They released that standalone. I think it's on Switch. I remember seeing.
Yeah, it's on there. I have the Capcom Clash, the Card Fighter Clash, the SNK versus Capcom.
SNK Capcom.
I have the cartridge for that too. They've got some interesting ones. They're not the most expensive. TurboGrafx would definitely be the adapter that I'll get the least amount of use out of. I've had mine pre-order for a year now. Still waiting. I have my Game Gear one though.
I have the Mega SG came with a Game Gear adapter as well. That's why I have one Game Gear game.
So it's
so what is that?
Don't you have Crystal?
Dragon
Crystal.
Dragon Crystal.
Which I don't think is...
So I can say that it is both my favorite and least favorite Game Gear game I own. Because it's the only one.
Now you need Crystal Warrior, the strategy RPG. The Game Gear adapter, I got it actually before my Pocket even came in. When I went to make my pre-order for the Pocket, it had just sold out, and the only thing they had left available was the dock and the Game Gear adapter. So I went ahead and purchased those because I didn't know how hard they'd be to get a hold of later. And then it turns out I didn't get to buy a Pocket again for like 6 more months. So my dock and my Game Gear adapter shipped with the first wave of Pockets, but then I had to wait for like another, so it felt like a year before I could actually use any of them.
So so you're gonna pick up the Analog 3D?
I plan on it.
Are you sold? Are you waiting for that pre-order?
Yes.
I told them to notify me when the order goes live, but I am not sure if I will actually bite this time. We will see. But I will say it has been great. At this point, I'm like collecting analog products, I guess, but I don't have the Duo pre-ordered, of course, because I have no games for it.
It looks cool.
I opted for the TurboGrafx Mini when I got a decent deal on that, and I think I'll content myself.
I think you won.
My TurboGrafx.
I bought one of those too, and it's a way better deal than. I mean, it's cheaper than buying just the Duo without games.
Exactly. It's and the games get very pricey very fast. Oh, yeah. But the N64, you could get games for it, and I like I said, I could probably claim games for a system if I did that. I might even add some games to my collection. And there are games that won't be on NSO. Like I don't know that Mischief Makers is going to make its way there. But I can always rig up the original,
That's right.
But it is nice not having to mess with the CRT.
It is. And
still get, really good experience out of everything. So any hopes you have for the NSO, the N64 app specifically? I shouted out some games I'd like to see. Blast Core, Mischief Makers.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'd like to see Ogre Battle and some other
that's up there for me too.
I got Harvest.
Even if I had a 3D, I probably wouldn't be playing Ogre Battle on it.
It's so good. I would say the Turok games,
but expensive. Turok, yeah.
Turok would be good.
Dan loves Turok.
I want Turok with modern controls. I know that they have the ones on the Switch, but I think it would be neat to have those on the NSO app as well. Bomberman games. There's some decent Castlevania games.
I actually really like Bomberman Hero.
Yeah.
I have not played the 64 Castlevania games. I'm kind of afraid to.
Gauntlet Legends.
I have not heard good things. Gauntlet Legends.
There's a lot of good ones out there still.
Yeah, Bomberman Hero, though. I really like Bomberman Hero. For a long time, that was actually the only Bomberman game I owned, and it's like a very unorthodox Bomberman game.
It is. It's not Bomberman. It just has him in it.
It's not, but it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun.
But yeah, no, there's still, I think Battle Tanks would be awesome because it has 4-player multiplayer that you could play. Diddy Kong Racing, we're never going to get.
Who makes Battle Tanks?
3DO.
I don't know. I mean, Rare's here.
Yeah, but I think if it was coming, we would have already heard something.
Maybe. I think.
Maybe it's a Switch 2
I mean,
MSO.
people are talking Switch 2, Switch successor. If the service carries over and we're not back to
I think it
square
has
one
to.
on it, I think we could see it would be such a blow.
Oh, it would. I think you would
to
lose
do that.
some of your customers.
And I expect a lot of contemporaneous, like it would carry over. And I mean, I imagine because the Switch is doing so well, if they launch a Switch 2, they're going to have to keep supporting the Switch for several years.
Yeah, that's
just because there's going to be people who don't upgrade.
Well, they've already talked about how the importance of keeping the account system separate from the physical hardware.
Yeah.
Which was a move that was made whenever they launched the Switch. With them stressing that importance, I can only imagine that the next system is going to be able to just migrate your current settings over to it, just like what you do with Xbox or PlayStation. You just sign into your account and you're established.
I think I'm actually surprised Diddy Kong Racing, if you told me years ago that they were going to add GoldenEye before Diddy Kong Racing, I would have been like, what? That doesn't make any sense. I think it'll come.
Oh, that's what I was saying. Like stuff like Battle Tanks, I don't know if there's enough. I don't know if it's a big enough name like that people know about. I mean, I played it a lot as a kid because it was one of the few like true 4-player all-out multiplayer that wasn't GoldenEye. It was a tank fighter, and when I try to go back and play it now, it's not the greatest, but whenever I was a kid, it was amazing.
You're not waiting every day, praying for Quest 64.
No, I actually haven't played Quest 64, so I will reserve my negative.
Yeah, it's fine. It gets talked about. It just gets talked about more than it deserves. I think
it's just like
it's really not that good or that bad.
It's just like a generic.
It's just Quest
RPG,
64,
right?
There aren't that many of those on the N64 though.
No, and that's what's sad. A lot of people grew up playing Quest 64 thinking that this is a Nintendo RPG. This is the good stuff. And no, it is not.
I don't know that Hybrid Heaven is all that much better. It is a little bit more interesting, I think.
Yeah, I mean...
Also quite a flawed game.
I heard that the Game Boy Color version of Quest was better.
Brian's Quest? Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think a lot of it, and the N64 in general, a lot of it comes down to people's willingness to adapt to the camera. Modern gamers just they don't know how to do it.
The N64 only had like 8.
You don't have that problem. The Game Boy Color version does not give you that problem. So that's why a lot of people like it more.
It's like dang the N64 and its 8 viewing angles that are available at any time.
What if Hybrid Heaven and Quest 64 both come? And you can play every N64 RPG except Ogre
I will
Battle.
be upset.
At least one of them is good, and that's Paper Mario, and it's already here.
Yeah, definitely go play Paper Mario if you haven't. That one's definitely worth playing. I think that's all I have for these topics. How about you? I think we're kind of snowballing.
No, I could talk about N64 for a while. I could talk about NSO for a while, and digital games,
analog, and
how they're not the end of the world. But I do wish there were, better ways to take advantage of the actual advantages of digital games instead of just get money out of people.
Yeah.
But that's a topic for another time. The analog 3D is exciting, of course. If you have a collection, if you are planning to get one of those pre-orders, let us know on our non-toxic and friendly Discord.
When it gets closer,
which you can find links for.
I was going to say, when it gets closer to time, there's probably going to be a group of us on Discord that are all looking for it at the same time.
Yep.
So you definitely want to be in on that group, because then you'll get notified whenever you're not paying attention to the page. Somebody else will be.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to the RetroLogic podcast. We are proudly part of the Nintendo Dads family of podcasts. If you like what you hear, you're welcome to jump into our friendly and 100% non-toxic Discord community. And once again, you can find links to all that, as well as the other shows, the blog, which I didn't even mention this episode. There's some satire going on over there right now. On our website, which is retrologic.games. Until next time, good night.
Bye now.